Welcome to this LinkedIn event. Accepting your incompetence is a sign of true leadership. And this little provocative title comes from my colleague Anna here. Anna, would you introduce yourself and your company as we get started, please?
Yes, hello. So my name is Anna Gromadzka, and I am a client partner at Six Group. Six Group is a global executive search and leadership advisory firm. So I've been with Six Group for the past 3 years, focusing on managing the executive search projects as well as leadership assessment and development projects for industrial manufacturing and supply chain companies. I'm a Saville Wave psychometric assessment practitioner. And I also host a podcast called Ways Women Lead, where I interview female in leadership positions. The podcast has a purpose to share advice and best practice on how to develop your career as a leader, and also how to develop leaders within your teams and how to foster greater diversity, equity, and inclusion in your organization.
Thank you, Anna. And that's how we bonded too. We are both so committed to just helping females making the best out of their career, really thriving in their careers. And we met through Women Automotive Network. We can mention that. And so I'm very happy that we're here today. My name is Micha Goebig. I am the founder and CEO of Goebig Coaching and Communications. And my team and I, we are all about giving you the strongest voice possible. So in communications, that's a lot about culture sensitive translations, speeches, texts. And on the coaching side, that's a lot about supporting female leaders, current and aspiring, to lead with confidence and to build very, very successful careers, especially in male dominated industries like tech and automotive. That said, let's dive right in. So, Anna, you came up with the title, and incompetence, of course, is a bit of a why? Oh God, I'm not incompetent, but you chose that title on purpose. So, tell us a little more about what you mean by incompetence, and why is it important for leaders to embrace it?
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like you said, it's a little bit scary, right? To say that you are incompetent and counterintuitive, because leadership has always been about role modeling high performance and demonstrating successes and driving a culture of achievement. And so how does accepting your incompetence can make you a true leader? So both parts of the story make you a true leader. So it's about achievement, but it's also about acknowledging and accepting your incompetence. So what do I mean by incompetence? It's about your limitations. So limitations specific, related to specific areas of expertise, related to specific abilities or skills. So firstly, studies show that leaders who possess self-awareness of their strengths, but also their limitations, have better communication skills. They build stronger relationships. They cultivate more fulfilled employees. And finally, they make better decisions and generate greater profits than those leaders who don't possess that self-awareness. So first, it's about self-awareness, but then it's about acceptance. So leaders who are comfortable with acknowledging and accepting their own limitations and mistakes are more likely to foster a workplace culture of improved innovation and performance than those who don't. And also, the self-awareness is the foundation for building an organization that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, which allows you to reap the benefits of diversity.
I love that. And actually, my very first job was teaching college in the US, which I was not a citizen of at that time. It was actually my first stint abroad, fresh out of grad school. And I learned that saying, I don't know, both with colleagues and my boss and my students at the time, and I was teaching college, actually got me a lot of respect. And I find that is still the case. The stakes are higher if you're a woman in a very male dominated, very high achieving culture. The stakes are higher, but it is so important. It's
it,
really
it
something.
seems
Yeah.
it seems like it was a very mature environment, because I
Yeah.
feel like in the past it was not well accepted when you said
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, I can't do it. I think
Yeah.
organization is changing now, are
It's
changing now in
changing.
that
Yeah, and I
respect.
think it needs to change on the top, and it needs to change also with the people who can more easily put themselves in the spot, right? I mean, if you're in a higher management, if you're a man, it's easier because the repercussions, the risk is not that high. But
I think so.
let's move. Let's talk a little more about the self awareness, because that is key. And self awareness is it's hard to grasp. What
Hmm.
is it really about? Like in very practical terms. And how does a leader, how do I know I have it? I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's not about
So
navel gazing, right? So, what is it exactly?
Eh, good question. Exactly. What is self awareness? So, actually, there are quite recent studies, interesting studies done on self awareness. So, to start with the definition, self awareness can be defined as consisting of two types: internal self awareness and
Mm-hmm.
external self awareness. And so, internal self awareness is when you recognize your own values, passions, strengths, weaknesses, your impact on others. This self awareness is associated with greater job satisfaction, with happiness, lower levels of anxiety, and lower levels of depression. So,
Yeah,
on its own, I
that's
think
a good
that
one. That's a
contributes.
really important one. Yeah.
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 Yes, yes. I think on its own that contributes to a better working environment, a healthier working environment. Then we have external self awareness. So external self awareness is understanding how others perceive you in terms of the same qualities. So in terms of your values, passions, strengths, weaknesses, and your impact on others. Sometimes we think we come across certain way, but actually people around us perceive our behavior completely different than what we think we come across.
That is so true. Isn't that
Mhm.
true? We always have this idea how we come across, and then when you ask people, they're like, why would I think that of you? So
Yeah,
that's really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And it matters, right? Because in the end, if people
Mm-hmm.
think of you, I don't know, that you maybe too direct or maybe not direct enough, well, it matters that
Yeah.
you communicate in a way that they can understand it better. So that external self-awareness is linked to empathy, as you would uh,
Mm-hmm.
as you would imagine, and perspective taking skills. Now, here is an interesting part. The studies show that people, when asked, majority say they are self-aware.
Mm.
Fantastic,
Is that
right?
true? Is that true?
um, well, here's the answer. Actually, when that was assessed, the studies showed that only 10 to 15% of people demonstrate true self-awareness. So
Okay.
the
Okay.
majority wasn't even aware that they didn't have that
They're not aware.
self-awareness.
All right. All right. Yeah, that's really interesting. So even with what do you think is the share of self-awareness higher with leaders, or is it just the average share? What do you find with senior leaders you encounter? Uh, is
Uh-huh.
there do they have this type of self-awareness often, or is there work to
Uh-huh.
do?
So we work a lot with senior leaders,
Mm-hmm.
helping them to develop that self-awareness through various assessment programs,
Mm-hmm.
psychometric, behavioral assessment programs. And we find, and studies confirm that actually experience and power can hinder self-awareness. And
Uh-huh.
highly experienced and senior leaders are less accurate in assessing their effectiveness and tend to overvalue their skills, which is likely due to a fact that people around these senior leaders don't give them candid feedback, don't
Yes.
provide
Yeah.
constructive criticism for fear of repercussions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, you will get very little really real and raw, honest feedback from those around you, because you've reached a level where people are afraid of repercussions, as you said. And that is actually a great segue about what I wanted to talk about next. We talk a lot about psychological safety, creating safe spaces. So fear is obviously very unhealthy in a corporate climate. How can we create those safe spaces at work? And that tying it back into the incompetence, to being able to state one's limitations. How's that important for creating safe spaces?
So first of all, going back to the title of the talk today. So if leaders are not comfortable with accepting their own mistakes and weaknesses, they're likely to be the obstacle to creating a culture of psychological safety.
Right. That makes sense.
To explain what psychological safety is, psychological safety refers to the confidence that one will not face punishment or shame for voicing ideas, for asking questions, expressing concerns, and making mistakes. So, in a workplace environment, it's an understanding that team members have with one another that they will not be ridiculed, dismissed, penalized for taking risks, sharing ideas, and seeking input. And developing that culture of psychological safety is important because it's a culture of fellowship. So it encourages employees to bring their whole selves to work without that fear of retribution for mistakes or setbacks. It creates an environment where people are comfortable giving and receiving direct feedback, sparring, driving that even better if mindset, that continuous improvement mindset. And so leaders can promote psychological safety and will only promote psychological safety through accepted vulnerability, through acknowledging and accepting own areas of incompetence.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll just add, that was a study I recently read, and I quoted it somewhere. I'll find it if someone is interested, that the direct superior, your direct manager, has most to do, more than company policy, more than the C-suite, more than anything, about if you feel psychological safety and a sense of inclusion. It's really, it goes all the way down, group leaders, middle management. So that's a lot of pressure on middle management. I mean, I think with this creation of psychological safety, I think everybody who is a first-time manager or in middle management, I think those people, I'm not telling them anything new. They know that the pressure is high for them. But that is so important. So thank you for really clarifying how that goes together. And so the self-awareness in creating psychological safety, maybe you can talk a little bit more about that. How self-awareness and the vulnerability, you mentioned vulnerability. That's, of course, also not the favorite word of lots of us. So how does that all come in?
It seems like an antonym, right? Vulnerability and leadership. Yeah, that's the mindset that we've has been
we
reinforced.
used to be trained to be strong, right? And so vulnerability is like, oh, we're not Brené Brown. I mean, maybe no, probably not listening, but nobody is Brené Brown. So for the rest of us, it's a tricky one to talk about.
Yeah. So to your question, so how is psychological safety and self-awareness connected? So as a leader, when you promote self-awareness and encourage the development of self-awareness among your teams, you will enable your employees to feel comfortable in acknowledging their own areas of incompetence, enabling this culture of psychological safety, so bringing your whole self to work. In addition, self-awareness is a key part of emotional intelligence. You need self-awareness to develop stronger emotional intelligence. And also, as we saw earlier, people who possess that external self-awareness, they are more empathetic. And so emotional intelligence and empathy, they play an integral part in creating psychological safety and enabling individuals to communicate effectively and manage conflict effectively and foster stronger relationships, etc.
Those are all extremely important aspects, of course. So I don't want everybody to know everything. So I would like to just comment quickly on that, both from leaders allowing others to like facilitating bringing your whole self to work, and for individuals to show up that way. What does it mean for you?
Bringing your whole self. So it means sharing your experiences, as they are, being authentic, not only showing, the strong, the perfect side of you, not only focusing on creating the perfect team, but allowing people to make mistakes, allowing them to learn, to grow and develop, which means that we will have to give them, tasks that for certain they're not the experts in, right? Because they'll be learning. And it's like you said earlier, the studies showed that you as a leader, as a direct manager of your team, you have the most impact on your team's psychological safety. You also have the biggest impact on your team's performance. So it's on you. Well, it's on you in a way that you show that authenticity, so your teams feel comfortable with doing the same. And you can do that by communicating with your team with care, by leading conversations with empathy, using language that is affirmative rather than alienating. Educate yourself on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Understand how diversity works. What are the different biases that might hinder inclusive decision making. Developing skills such as cultural competence can help to lead diverse teams. So I think it's a lot about developing those soft skills. That I think we're trying to change the term for it. They shouldn't be called soft skills, because actually they are so important.
There's nothing soft about it.
Exactly.
Soft skills is definitely one of my trigger words. It's kind of my pet peeve, telling people. I mean, of course, that's all I have, right? My entire life, my entire career is built on what people call soft skills. So I'm easily triggered by the word. And I'm not sure if I want to call them power skills. I mean, there is power in those skills, I feel, but interpersonal skills maybe. And may I add one thing to the authenticity piece and the bringing the whole self to work, because that's a lot what I see with my coaching clients, and that is, you don't bringing your whole self to work doesn't mean that you share everything. Bringing your whole self to work has to do with having agency, so you can share, but you don't have to. You're still a private person at a certain point. You don't have to just overshare. There's no need for that. Like maybe you are comfortable talking about your family a little, maybe you're not. And it's still, you have the agency to decide, but it's really about being able to do it. Right. So you don't have to dump it all on your colleagues and your boss, or as a leader, you don't have to like detail every aspect of your private life to show vulnerability, but just something that feels okay for you to share, to give people a little more of a well-rounded picture. That's one starting point. And then just being able to. I think that's the big deal.
Yeah, that's right. We don't have to go to an extreme of sharing your all personal I don't know, problems. Right. It's that's not what it's about.
What I really like, especially for leaders, if they try new leaders, let's say you're a new leader and you want to connect to your team, especially if you have very few direct reports, but there's a lot of people you are responsible for. I actually encourage people to do a brief weekly email, either Monday or Friday, and like either starting or closing the week, and share a tidbit of your weekend.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm, mhm.
either if it's a Monday email doing like, hey, I had a great weekend. We went to, I don't know, whatever, or on Friday, hey, I hope you had a good week. I'm looking forward to doing this and that with my family. I like the
Yeah.
tidbit thing. Just like giving
Yeah,
people, oh, this person, they ski. Oh, they garden. Oh, they have 2 kids. It doesn't have to go into detail, but I think that's a beautiful way to establish just a bit more for the human connection through
yeah, exactly. It's
communication.
about sharing a little bit more time with each other, getting to know each other from all the perspectives than just
Yeah,
business or work.
exactly. Yeah. So I would like to round it up with a topic we have been talking about a lot. You and your company and me too. We work a lot with clients in highly innovation driven environments. And that's the nature of tech,
Yeah,
automotive. There's
yeah.
a lot of innovation going on. It's fascinating, but it is also always changing, and that makes it harder sometimes, both for leaders and for team members. So the points we've talked about: self-awareness, psychological safety,
Mhm.
authenticity. How does that impact people, teams, and innovation environment? How does it impact innovation itself?
So there were actually interesting studies again done about it by Google. So
Mm-hmm.
they did a research on
Okay,
their
they
teams.
know their thing about innovation. Yep.
Yeah, precisely. If you put a role model, if you pick one company to learn
Mm-hmm.
from, I think Google could be a good one.
Yeah.
Uh, so they looked at identifying what were the key drivers of success
Mm-hmm.
for their teams, and they discovered that psychological safety was the top factor.
Mm-hmm.
It was crucial to foster innovation, collaboration, and risk taking. And it's because the culture of psychological safety encourages teams to embrace mistakes, to have
Yeah.
difficult conversations, and speak up without fear of embarrassment or punishment. And so such teams perform better and achieve results faster than those lacking psychological safety. And yeah, so I think a lot of studies has proven I think there is enough proof showing that it's very important. And this is why I think accepting your incompetence as a leader is true sign of leadership, because your role as a leader isn't to be an expert in your team's areas of expertise, but it is to facilitate collaboration
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
your team and across the organization, and build cohesive teams and enable free flow of information throughout the organization to facilitate that, creating solutions
Mm-hmm.
and allow the organization to perform as a complete whole, with each individual parts performing in a cohesive way. And so the culture of psychological safety will facilitate that.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's something we've seen. But I want to encourage. Before I have one thing to say to that too, but
Mhm.
before I do, I want to encourage those of you who are on this LinkedIn Live. Feel free to put questions or comments in the comments section of the event. We cannot bring you on, but we would love to hear questions and discuss those. And the one thing I wanted to say about the innovation environments, it's really, if you are a leader in an innovation environment, you just cannot run with what you've probably learned at university or from older leadership types, because it just does not work. So it is harder because you have to encourage disagreement too, right? I mean, and you never know who is the person who comes up with this the next breakthrough. You just don't know. It
Yeah,
might be the youngest, most junior person on your team,
yeah.
and I
And you
think
have
that
to
makes it interesting, but also hard at times.
Yeah, and you have to be open to being disagreed with.
Yes.
As well.
And that is, I think, what Google leadership used to. I don't know how it is right now, but that's a lot of stories you hear out of Google. That's how they framed their entire leadership thing. It's like, disagree with me. To really get to that innovation place. So that is really a very interesting approach, and it's hard for a lot of people, and it's also hard for many women and many people from cultures that are more indirect communicators to do that. Because you're not trained to disagree. You're not trained to challenge someone who is more senior than you are. But it has. So it's again up to the leader to create that environment.
Yeah, I think that's it's an area of development for everyone. For employees who are to learn that they can disagree with the employer, and for employers to learn that if someone disagrees with you, it's not it's not a threat to you. It's actually an opportunity to maybe create a new solution for your problems, for your business.
Yeah, I mean, we talked in the beginning about a growth mindset, and this all can be a win-win, right? It's not that you lose what it's not a zero game mindset. This is really a win-win situation where when leaders show this authenticity and create that environment, they will get better results too. So everybody wins if you learn to say, I don't know, tell me about it. What do you think?
Precisely. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly. We don't have questions. I cannot see questions in the comments right now, but I wanted to mention James, the managing director of Six Group, put a book in the chat on psychological safety. Amy Edmondson, The Fearless Organization. So if you want to learn more, this is absolutely something to check out. So always feel free to reach out. Both Anna and I love to continue the conversation together individually. Shoot us a message and let's continue the conversation. And I wish you a great rest of your week. Anna, thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.